20-week check-in. It is, or 20 weeks and 1 day, I guess. So it's the 20th of May, 2019. And I am potentially at the halfway mark, although if we go to 42 weeks, then next week will be the halfway mark. But yeah, roughly around that halfway. So 5 months pregnant now and starting to get a little bit of a bump. I don't know if you'll be able to see. If I show you my little baby bump here. Really kind of popped this week. Starting to look more like actually a pregnant woman rather than just somebody who's a little bit bloated. And nausea is definitely gone, but somebody asked me how I was feeling, and I guess I feel like I've got my energy back. I feel obviously nowhere near as sick as I was before, but there's just this kind of underlying thing. I can't even explain it. It's like you just don't feel like you did before you were pregnant. I'm not sure if everybody experiences that. Some people probably just feel completely the same the whole way through. But I've definitely found that I just feel a bit out of sorts, and I think my immune system's a little bit lower this week. I flew down to Sydney on the weekend. I had a convention on Friday, and then I caught up with family over the weekend. So it was great to see everyone, but definitely a bit of, I guess, stress in terms of flying. It's the first time I've flown pregnant, and it was actually something that I was going to try and avoid doing completely. And then I realized life had to go on, and it's not like I'm doing it every week. And I took precautions, I used my essential oils. I actually covered my nose and mouth for most of the flight up and back, or down and back, I should say, with my scarf. So lucky it's winter. I mean, I get cold on the plane anyway, but I was able to block myself, especially I had people sneezing all around me, and I was just trying so hard not to get sick. And then just being out of my own routine, my own home. So the water I was drinking down in Sydney was different. It wasn't the same filtered water that we use at home. It was similar food, but still some things that were a little bit not quite what I would have chosen at home. So just a few things that you need to prepare yourself for, I guess, if you are planning on traveling whilst pregnant and you're trying to stay as healthful as possible, especially now that I'm past that first 3 months and I'm not feeling sick anymore, and I want to prioritize making sure that I'm getting good quality nutrition in. When you are on the road, it is a little bit harder to do that. It's not impossible, but it's just definitely harder, and you do have to think ahead a bit more, just making sure that you've prioritized those things as well as sleep. So I made sure that I traveled with my sleep pack. I wore my blue blockers at nighttime when it was dark outside before I went to bed. And then I used my sleep mask because in the room that I stay in down there are some lights on, like plugs on the wall and things like that. So just kind of protecting myself from that. But there's still things that are out of my control, and that's just life, I know. But if I had been at home, some of those things would have been a little bit more controlled. So just, I guess, managing to stay well after coming back from that trip, prioritizing getting good nutrition in now, prioritizing sleep as much as possible this week, and just staying as stress-free as possible. And what I mean by that is that stress management is under control. So stress is not going anywhere. We all know that. It's a part of our lives, and it's here to stay most likely. So just coming up with ways of dealing with that and ways of staying balanced and calm and not going into that fight or flight mode, allowing myself to stay in that rest and digest parasympathetic healing nervous system as much as possible to keep the baby happy and healthy. And what else? So baby went from the size of a mango last week to the size of a rock melon this week. So quite a drastic jump, as I guess you saw when I showed you my belly just before. And it will just be a continual growth now. We've got our next scan on Wednesday. We're meeting our midwife tomorrow. We were meant to meet her last week, but she had to go in to do some emergency cesarean stuff. So understandably, that visit was cancelled. So we're getting to meet the new midwife tomorrow. So that'll be good. And then, we'll also have our 20-week scan on Wednesday. So we'll get to see Bubba's movements again and see how she has grown. And we're not finding out the gender until birth, so we'll have to make sure that the sonographer doesn't tell us what gender the baby is. I'm sure they're pretty good at doing that if they've been doing it a while, that not telling you unless you ask. So I guess that's all for now. Wanted to update you on the halfway mark, and that everything's going well, and trying to get on top of everything. Some stuff happened with our business recently behind the scenes, so we're just trying to get on top of all of that before baby comes. The countdown is on and we're very aware of that, but just getting as much as we can done now in the lead up to that. So yeah, that's all for now. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.